Hey y'all, it's Leah. Welcome back to another episode where we are making our ideas book. We are creating templates out of copy paper with directions for junk journal elements that we can use in future journals. So today's project is going to be a flip-flap folio. Say that 3 times fast. And it is definitely a little more intricate project. So this one came about, I was looking on a Facebook group that I'm in, and somebody posted these pictures. And she was asking if anybody had made one of these before. She found the pictures on Pinterest, but only found directions in Spanish and wasn't really sure how to do it. And so I took it as a mission to figure it out. So after some trial and error yesterday, I kind of came up with my own version. So this is what we have. When we open it up, we open it and it's got a little top piece, bottom piece has a little pocket here, and then we've got these little flaps that are gonna open up, and then they're gonna open up again, and then we have a little envelope in the middle. And to be honest, the envelope was the hardest thing for me to figure out. So I will explain how we did all of this, and we can make our own version of that. So let's get this all closed up and kind of set to the side. So we are going to start with 2 strips of 3.5 by 7.5 inch paper. You want to use double-sided cardstock for this. I don't know if it would be sturdy enough to use a double-sided paper, so I found that the cardstock did hold up. Sometimes cardstock, when you're doing the folds like that, can crack. It just depends on the quality of the cardstock. I happen to have this one is pretty good. It's Elizabeth Crafts, and it works really well and holds up to folding. So you're gonna do 2 strips of this, and then we're gonna do some scoring on this one. So I've already done one, but we'll kind of show you what we do for this. So you're gonna put it on your scoreboard, or if you don't have a scoreboard, you can use your paper cutter. And if you either have the little black slide that is the scorer, or you can just use a scoring tool, or even the blunt end of a pencil, like a mechanical pencil, and kind of run it through the groove. So we are going to score at 2.5, because I decided to make the little panels basically ATC size. So that was a good size for me to work off of. So 2.5 by 3.5, basically the size of a playing card. So we score at 2.5 and then at 5. And then you are going to, we'll set that aside just for a second. You're gonna fold it and do a good crease there. And then you're gonna round your corners. I just think that that gives it, I liked that little look that it gave it. And then we're gonna fold the other side, give that a good crease, and then round those corners as well. And then I already have this one done, and my corners, you want your end corners to be done. This last part is going to get glued and then covered with the envelope. So on this one, I need to round the opposite corners. And copy paper does not always round really well when it is single sheets. Okay, so we've got that part. So those are going to be our little flaps. We'll set that aside. And then now we're going to need, this is going to be the middle part. You need a piece, again, double-sided cardstock. I used a coordinating piece, but not the same piece. So this one is going to be 5 by 9 inches. And then we're also going to do some scoring. Now, I figured out my first prototype, I didn't do gussets. and when I went to close it up, it didn't close as nicely. So I don't know if you can really see it, but I do have a little gusset here, and so that is what we're gonna do, kind of a double score really close together. So we're gonna do one at 1 7/8, and then the next one is at 2. So that just gives us that little bitty gusset there. And then our next one is going to be at 5 1/2, and then at 5 5/8. Okay. And so then we're going to fold, and I'm folding. You just want to fold on both and give them a good score. So then I'm going to go back and fold on that first line. This is always the tricky part. It works a little bit better on cardstock, but copy paper is just always a little so flimsy. Okay, that gives us that fold there, and then we'll do the same thing on this side. Those done. Okay, and so remember, this one is going this way, so we're just gonna round our 4 corners. So for this one, I am using, for the little ones, I use the small round, but for these, I'm gonna use the medium round. I like the size of that and kind of the look of that. Okay. So now we have this, and we're ready to assemble our main part of our folio. So these are just going to get glued on the inside. So I had to do it in 2 parts because you notice it's 7 1/2 by 7 1/2. I don't have 15-inch paper. So that's why I went ahead and just did the 2 pieces, because this middle part is going to get covered anyway. And so I'm just going to glue that, and you're getting it, you want it on in between the lower and the upper gusset. So you want to make sure you're leaving that little space. So it's the lower score line on the top and the upper score line on the bottom. Oops. Glue all over the place this morning. Okay. And you just want to make sure that you're leaving that score mark on the outside so that you can fold it. I'm noticing this one, I went a little bit too much on the inside. So that is basically the main part of the folio. We've got this. This closes up like that. So now you get to decide how you want to decorate it. So I was going off of that main picture as far as I liked the look of having that secret little envelope on the inside when you opened it up. So like I said in the beginning, that was the hardest part for me to figure out. I don't have an envelope punch board, and I think those you can do like random size envelopes, and it helps you kind of figure that out. So I watched a lot of videos, some where you start off with the square and you fold in your corners and fold in the top. That took a lot of measurement. And if you watched my videos before, I don't love doing a ton of measurement. I want simple measurements. I don't want to do a whole lot of math. It's not that I am math averse, but I just would prefer to just kind of go easier. So set those directions aside and get my envelope directions so I can see those. So I decided to go with the envelope that just folds up and just has that little flap that goes on the inside that you are gluing to. And I like the look of this one. So to do that, we're going to start with a piece that is 6 7/8 by 8. And the way I figured that out is whatever your length is, you are going to, actually, no, that's what it was. You measured a card, whatever your inside piece you wanted to do. So I went, I knew I wanted a 3.5 by 5 inch. That's what this opening is. And so you measured diagonal across that way. And so that was 7 inches. And then you're going to add an inch on, add an inch to that. And so, sorry, that was 6 inches and then add an inch. And so I did that on the first one and on this one, and you notice that it just kind of is a little too close to the sides. And so that when this closes, it sort of puckers a little bit. So what I did was I shortened that to just 6 7/8. So I took off 1/8 of an inch, and I think that's going to work out much better. So then you are going to score this one at 1 inch on either side. So I do my one, slide that up, and then flip it over and do your other 1 inch. Okay. Then to do the top part, I wanted an 1.5 inch flap coming down and a 5-inch flap going up. And so we're going to score that, not a 5-inch, sorry. I wanted it to go up to 5. So, because that was my bottom mark. So I'm going to score at 1.5 and then at 5. Right. So now we've got some creases that we can do some cutting. And I like to use kind of a bigger pair of scissors to do this cutting. So what I'm going to do is I want to angle this in just a touch and go to that center crease, and then I'm going to angle up. Okay, so let's see how I'm doing. So I'm starting just a little to the left of that crease and going up to the point where they converge, and then I'm just going to turn my scissors diagonally and cut that way. And then from this side, I'm going to start with the angle cut. And then when I'm at that center, I'm just going to angle my scissors so that it's a little to the left of that fold. And we'll do the same thing. So we're coming to the left, go to that center point, or that cross section, go here, and then diagonal, and then coming just a touch to the left. Okay. And they might not be perfect, but I figure junk journaling is not meant to be perfect. Get these scraps out of my way. Okay. So then we're going to fold in our flaps. You would definitely want to ink before you did this part, if you're going to ink, because that way you can have your flaps. It's mainly going to be for this bottom flap. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold that. And then we're just going to add some glue here. Be sure not to go all the way to the edge or all the way to the top, because that part is going to show. Okay, so we didn't want to get glue here or in those little creases there. And so now we've got our little envelope. And then you can decide how you want to attach your envelope. You could do a little tie in the center, kind of similar to how I did the big tie, where I just glued a piece of ribbon to the back. So you could definitely do like a little piece of string going around here, and it can tie in the center. That is going to bulk up your middle a little bit. I did a Velcro closure, so you could do that. You could do a you could do magnets, or you could just leave it so it just kind of flaps open like that. Okay, so then we are going to glue this down into our center. that does fit a little bit better. And then with your gussets, that works. And so that closes up nicely. So then you get to decide how you want to decorate all of your little flaps. So you could do pockets. You could do a little policy envelope that was in that original picture. You can do some side tucks like I did here. I did some pockets here. For this, I just glued down just some paper, but you could definitely do some things here. And then on here, I did the little corners. So however you want to do that is totally up to you. And then when you are all finished, you want to figure out how you want to close this. And so again, you can do your ribbon or lace going across there, some string. You could do some Velcro. You could do a magnet. If you've got some other kind of closure that I don't know about, that would work. I guess you could do a policy enclosure with the circles and the brads, and then have some string that would tie it up. So lots of different options for that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our directions for this one. Okay. So we are going to start with 2 strips of double-sided paper, and we're going to cut those at 3.5 by 7.5. You're going to score them at 2.5 and 5 inches, and then go ahead and fold and round those inside and outside corners, and then ink it before you glue that down. Then to make the top and bottom folds, you're going to cut a double-sided paper at 5 by 9 inches. You're going to score that at 1 7/8 and 2 to make that top gusset, and then 5.5 by 5 and 5 5/8 to make that bottom gusset. And then just round those 4 corners and then ink that. And then go ahead and glue those 2 strips end to end in that middle section, and then decorate as desired. You can add envelopes in the middle, some pockets, some policy envelopes, some corner tucks, some side tucks. I think in the original picture, she had some little bags stuck down or kind of like shaker elements. Possibilities are endless for that one. If you are going to do an envelope, these were the directions for that. And that is cutting a piece that is 6 7/8 by 8 inches. And then score it at 1 inch on each side. So remember, score on your left side and then flip the whole thing around and score on the left again. And then from the top, you are going to score at 1.5 inches and then at 5 inches. And then go ahead and cut those top and bottom side pieces. And remember, we did kind of those angled cuts so that we ended up with some nice little angles when we folded it up. And then round the corners on there, and then go ahead and fold up and glue. All right, so let's get this into our journal. Go ahead and do this. I am going to just stick a little piece of Velcro on here just to keep it closed. My Velcro, I always stick them together and I put them on the bottom part to make sure it catches. That's a little, actually, we'll do it on the top part. That might be easier. That way it goes where I want it to go. All right, so that closes up. Get those out of the way. And we need kind of a big page for this one. Here we go. Let's do that. So, because we've got some big directions going here. I hope you liked this one. This was kind of fun for me to kind of reverse engineer a project. I'm going to go ahead and stick my envelope directions. I'm going to glue those right there on the envelope. So I have that right where I need it. Fold that back up. I've done that for a few things. looking at a picture and kind of figuring out, but nothing this detailed. So that was pretty fun to figure it out. And that is our Flip Flap Folio. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you try one out. And if you have any ideas of things that you would like me to see, feel free to send me a picture or because my email is linked on my, on the channel. And so you can send me a picture of something that you want me to reverse engineer, kind of figure out how to do that. Or if there's some things that you'd like me to see that we should include in our ideas book, let me know. And please like and subscribe, and I appreciate it. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.